First recording for Adios Pelota Giants YouTube.
1-0 pitch. There's a high drive to left field. Way back there. And Adios Pelota.
This is a lot different than making gaming videos. Holy cow. As of today, June 11th. Yeah, we're about a month and a half away from the MLB trade deadline. And so here are some moves that I think that the Giants could or should make in order to really push themselves into an upper echelon of competitors this season. Obviously, with the Diamondbacks and Dodgers kind of running away with the division at this point, we really only have hope at a wild card spot. And that won't be too hard to do, I think, considering how piss poor the NL Central's been and the NL East, aside from the Braves. You could look at the Marlins. I don't, and I'm sure as hell not looking at the Mets. Now, one spot that I feel like we don't really need to pay a whole lot of attention to in terms of improving is the outfield. Got outfielders galore. We finally get Jock back, who can play some left field. If needed, we have guys like Luis Matos and Elliot Ramos who are just waiting to be pulled up. And of course, Blake Sable can move out to left field, and he's been pretty solid out there with that speed. Now, the first thing that I think we need to address is going to be starting pitching. Mainly, I'm going to say that we need to give Kyle Harrison a shot. He had a really poor start to the season with a +5 ERA, but he's gotten it down to a 3.4, and his whip is a 1.417. Now, a 3.4 ERA isn't great, especially in the minor leagues, but that's not too bad for a guy who's only pitched 42 1/3 innings over 13 starts. It's only averaging 3 2/3 innings a start, which they're doing simply to preserve his arm until he gets the call to the majors. Now, one of the more concerning things about the number of innings pitched to how many starts he's had is his number of walks. Now, he does have 72 strikeouts over those 42 1/3 innings. He's also got 35 walks. That's a 2-dot ratio. That's almost 7.5 walks per 9, but over 15 Ks per 9, which is insane for a starter. Now, strikes, walks, ERA, those are all going to be adjusted because of how short his starts usually are. I think that we need to go ahead and pull him up sooner rather than later. We've had recent injuries to the starting rotation, and of course with guys like Ross Stripling and Sean Manaea getting booted to the bullpen, it really showed how depleted we can be at starting pitcher. I think bringing it up now rather than when we need to is kind of the perfect time. We have a few guys getting back from injury, but it lets him be kind of that sixth man on the starting rotation, and I think that's really what we need right now, even if he gets booted to the bullpen for the start. Now, the front office has already said that they're going to be pretty aggressive at the trade deadline this year, and we saw how aggressive they can be, but we don't want a situation where that Giants fans have been too accustomed to is getting so close to getting someone and then nothing. I mean, this season alone, we had Arson Judge and Carlos Correa both slip through our fingertips. We've seen it in guys like Bryce Harper, Giancarlo Stanton. It just happens too much with the Giants. So we really need to push and get some guys. I think some guys that we could be targeting, of course, Shohei Ohtani. The Angels are going to be shopping. The Angels really don't have much of a chance to get into the playoffs this year, considering how good the Rangers and Astros have both been in the division, and the AL East almost being able to have every single wild card spot within that one division. If the Angels want to get anything out of Shohei leaving, they need to ship him off at the deadline. Now, Shohei did say he wants to go to a contender more than anything. So we really do have to show that we are a contender without him, which could be pretty difficult, but I don't think it's out of the realm of what's possible. Some teams that I think are also going to be selling at the deadline are going to be the White Sox, possibly being able to ship off Lucas Giolito. I do think it's pretty likely that the Guardians are going to be selling at the deadline, so getting a guy like Shane Bieber would be pretty perfect to stick into that rotation. Now, a team that I don't think is going to be in a position to sell at the deadline is the Tampa Bay Rays, obviously the #1 team in baseball right now, but I do think it'd be worth a shot poking around to see if they'd be willing to ship Tyler Glasnow. Do I think we get Glasnow? No, but I do think that it could be worth poking around, seeing how he does have an injury history, and maybe the Rays don't want to deal with that because they see how the Rangers are dealing with DeGrom right now. #2 spot I think we should upgrade is the bullpen. Now, the bullpen has picked it up from a very forgettable start to the season. Scott Alexander is 5-0 on the season, and as a reliever, that's fantastic. It also shows how the Giants are able to come back late in games, which I think is a great sign because at the beginning of the season, it really seemed like we had a hard time finishing games. Taylor Rogers has also proven to be the pitcher that we signed in the offseason. Him and his brother are consistently going back-to-back scoreless innings right now. It's really fun to see. But one way that I think we could approach helping out the bullpen is actually going after a starter. I know this has been a very odd year for Alek Manoah, considering he was a top 3 in Cy Young votes last year, but I think that it would be worth letting him fix things in the bullpen, so that way, worst case scenario, we have a solid bullpen guy. Best case scenario, we have another ace. Because when Manoah is on, whether you like him or not. And considering the Blue Jays just sent him down, I don't think it's that far out of reality to consider them trading him. Yes, he is a season out from, like I said, being a Cy Young finalist. Wouldn't hurt to poke, though. Another guy that is in kind of the same situation, not as drastic, is Sandy Alcantara. Now, there is a little more faith in the Marlins organization that he'll bounce back better than Manoah can in Toronto. But again, wouldn't hurt to poke around. Number 3 on the list, we need to build the infield around Thairo Estrada. Currently on the season, he has a 2.2 WAR according to Fangraphs, and JD Davis and Lamont Wade are right behind him with 1.7 each. And of course, some younger guys we have that can step into infield positions, Marco Luciano, Casey Schmidt, and Reggie Crawford in a couple years. So I think JD Davis is going to be a future cornerstone of this franchise. No, but I do think he could be a serviceable DH. And of course, Late Night Lamont, I think, is going to be holding down first base for us for a really long time. And number 4, I think it wouldn't hurt to poke around to see what we can get for trading some of our, more recognizable faces. I think guys like Joey Bart, Jock Peterson, and Wilmer Flores could all be on the move by the time the deadline comes. Jock being traded would come as more of an injury concern, not being too reliable as the big bat that we need. And the Giants haven't done too bad in the power department without Jock this season. And having a guy like Blake Sable who can play catcher and left field, it really helps a lot in terms of keeping open a roster spot or filling it with another need. And with the middle infield farm that we do have, Wilmer Flores is kind of getting overlooked, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. And I don't think trading Wilmer would be a knock on what he can't do, but more so a credit to what he can do. I think Wilmer is still at a point in his career where he could demand a lot of trade value as a solid DH or even just a solid pinch hitter. Number 5 on the list is something that the Giants really wish they had gotten out of Jock, but fell just short, honestly. And that's getting a big bat. Now, I mentioned him earlier, but I also said that we need to go all in on him. So I'm going to go all in on him in this video. And that's Shohei Ohtani, obviously. The only way that we can be a competitor with Shohei is by showing him that we can be a competitor without him. It's no secret that Shohei wants to get paid big and wants to go to a team where he can win big. The Giants obviously have the capabilities to pay him big. I think even just showing that he would be the last piece of the puzzle would be a lot in terms of getting him to San Francisco. Now, I mentioned the Cleveland Guardians as a team that could be selling earlier, and I think another player they would be selling would be Jose Ramirez. Now, he is on contract with the Guardians until 2028, but I really think he could be a missing piece to this team. Jose Ramirez and JD Davis both have very similar WARs on the season, but I think having someone like Jose Ramirez at our everyday DH and letting JD stay at third and have both big bats in that lineup could be huge for us. Now, JD doesn't have the biggest bat, but he does have one of the more reliable bats in the league, especially in clutch situations. As far as I can think, that's what I got for now. Now, I'm sure there are plenty of other moves and plenty of other holes that we have that I didn't mention, so go ahead, drop it in the comments, and come time that the deadline passes, I'll see where we stand as a team and what moves we did or didn't make, and where I think that we maybe went wrong. So until next time, like, subscribe, comment your thoughts on this video and my takes as to what I think we should do before the deadline, and yeah, bye.